Well, hey folks, good morning, and as promised in the last video, I'm going to be working on a few upgrades to this trailer or modifications to this trailer, and I just want to quickly run through what I'm going to be doing, and then we'll go back inside the garage and I'll show you some products I'm going to be using. But first thing I'm going to be doing is putting some TPMS sensors on these two tires. It's a Bluetooth and wireless little device that I can screw onto the valve of these tires, and then I've got a monitor that I'm going to be able to put in the front of my truck that I can monitor the temperature, the pressure, all that good stuff while I'm on the road. So I'll be able to monitor where these tires are at, because the last thing I want is to be going down 70 miles an hour down the highway on a underinflated trailer tire. The second modification is I'm going to be installing some whip lights, and I'm going to drill a hole in the square tube of this trailer, and I'm going to put them on both sides. And these are absolutely hold no function to this trailer. It doesn't help it at all. They look cool, and my kids like them, and they saw them on some side-by-sides. They just want them, and this is a family camper, so I figured it would be fun to put a couple of whip lights on them. The main thing that I'm going to be doing is redoing my Galley. So let me show you why I'm redoing this. So if you guys haven't figured out yet by now, I'm pretty OCD, and this absolutely drives me crazy. It's just a mess. I originally built this to hold a 12-volt cooler, and it slides out, and I thought that would be a great idea, but it's not. There's not enough airflow in there. I have to keep this door open if I want to just keep getting in and out of the cooler. I'm going to just take this whole complete drawer system out, and I'm going to put more shelving in. But the main thing is I'm going to be installing a 12-volt, 100-amp-hour battery somewhere over here. So this is where all of my kind of electrical, and excuse the mess right now, it is kind of rat's nesty. I don't have a way to power this trailer unless I am plugged into shore power. They call it an LED driver, essentially. It's plugged up to my AC side, and when I plug into shore power, it provides power to my 12-volt panel. So I can't run this trailer if I'm not plugged in to shore power or via a generator. So in order to run all of my DC stuff, my lights, my circulating fans, all that good stuff, I can't do that unless I'm plugged into shore power. I'm going to put a 12-volt battery right here somewhere, clean all this stuff up, hook that battery up to that fuse panel so that I can start using some of my DC stuff, my DC appliances, when I'm not plugged into shore power. Okay folks, so here is all of the goodies that I'm going to be updating my trailer with, and to start off with, these are the whip lights from, I got these from Nilight, and honestly, I use Nilight for all of my switches and panels and all the electrical components that I use in my truck and in the camper. They've all come from Nilight, and I've bought them. They've all just worked great, so I trust this brand. And these whip lights have the spring on the base, and it comes with all the mounting hardware that you're going to need. So I'll just have to drill a hole the size of that bolt and stick it in, and then, tighten it down. These things are just cool. Again, they're no functional, I don't need these. They're not going to help my trailer in any way other than the kids are going to like it. But I just wanted to show you what they look like. So I have these just plugged in to a 12-volt plug, but I'm going to plug it into my little battery unit here. And I'm going to show you what they look like. So they have about 300 different patterns that you can choose from, and this is just the rainbow pattern, but it's just super cool, and it comes with a remote control, and there's just a ton of different little modes. I mean, I can't go through all of them on the video right now, but and of course you can pick a solid color. You can change the brightness. Let's go back to something that's a little more fun. So this will be the whip lights that I'm going to be installing. Okay, so next up on the upgrade is going to be this 100 amp hour LiPo 4 battery from DOBELAY. I picked this because it is the smallest 100 amp hour battery that I've seen, and I'll show you a comparison between one of my other 100 amp hour batteries. It just looked like a good unit, so I'm going to try this out in the camper. Now it's a 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour, 1,280 watt hour capacity rated battery. This does have, per the manufacturer, I'm not going to rip this open, but they did confirm via an email that this does have a 32 degree and below temperature sensor in it that will not allow you to charge it below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. I thought that would be beneficial for the camper just in case we are ever out in the wintertime and it does get cold. I wanted a battery that had a low temperature protection sensor on it, and this one apparently does. It's all in the manual. The manufacturer stated so, so maybe Will Prowse will demo one of these batteries to prove it. It does have the high voltage protection, low voltage protection, high temp protection, and low temp protection, as I just stated.
stated, this thing can provide a constant 100 amps worth of output. I'm not going to get anywhere near that. I'm only running a few LED lights and my max air recirculating fan on the ceiling, so I'm not going to even touch that 100 amp hour capacity. And the other thing that this battery has that I haven't seen, at least on a few that I've looked at, is cell balancing. Once these things are charged and they get up to that very tail end of charging, when they get above 14.4 volts, the BMS in this thing will start to automatically balance each one of those cells in this battery. And I can charge this thing up to 50 amps. I don't have a 50 amp charger. In case you're wondering, this will accept up to 50 amps worth of charging juice. If I get frisky and feeling kind of sporty, I can connect up to 4 of these in series or parallel. So these are linkable, so you can create a 51.2 volt battery system or a 400 amp hour battery system. And let me show you the size difference. So this is a 100 amp hour battery. This is a 100 amp hour battery. It's much smaller, which I wanted because it's going in the back of that camper. So I needed as small of a battery as I could, and this seems to fit the bill pretty good. So it is much smaller than my other 100 amp hour battery that I'm using. That's why I picked this DOBELAY. And then the last upgrade I'm gonna do is a tire pressure monitoring system for my 2 tires on the trailer. And this is from GUTA. And it's essentially just a sensor that you put on the valve of your tires, and it talks to a monitor system that I put on the dash of my truck. And it's gonna relay tire pressure, it's gonna relay temperature. It's got a whole lot of safety features built in to where you can set a certain PSI, either max or low PSI. If you get to either one of those ranges, it'll beep and scream at you inside the truck. So if you're going down the highway and your tire starts to lose pressure, it'll start beeping at you to let you know you need to pull over before you have a blowout and things really go sideways. So I'm gonna be testing out this GUTA tire pressure monitoring system and kind of show you guys, walk you through how it works and how you set it up and how you program the monitor that goes in your truck. So there you go, folks. Just 3 simple upgrades, minus the fact that I've got to pretty much redo the whole galley and install some more shelving and figure out where all the stuff's gonna go. So let's get working on that. All right, so cleaning out section is now complete. My idea is to put the battery here somehow and tie it into this fuse panel right here. It shouldn't be too difficult. I mean, I'm not gonna have a long wire run, maybe 6 to 8 inches, and I'm only gonna use 8 gauge because again, I'm not pulling hardly any watts with what I have in the camper. So let's get the battery installed here, get the wires cut and the terminal ends crimped on. Okay, so my thought is to put it this way. I think for wiring purposes, I'm going to install it that way. Now, that should hold it just fine. Okay, so I've just measured out a couple of lengths of 8 gauge wire and went ahead and crimped some terminal rings on the end of them that are going to go from the positive and negative of the battery up to the positive and negative of the fuse panel. Okay, we're good there. Get that out of the way. All right, folks, so now on to drilling out the holes to put my whip lights in, because I gotta put that bolt through here and then come take this end cap off and get that lock nut and, you know, screw it in from underneath, and then I can put this end cap back on and you'll never see it. But I've got to drill a pretty big hole, so I'm gonna use this step bit and just start drilling out the hole. Now I've already done a pilot hole, so I've already got the pilot hole started to help me with this step bit. But now the fun part. I think that's good. Let me go get my whip light. So again, these whip lights come with the hardware, but I got to take this nut off and the lock washer and the actual washer. But this hopefully nice. Okay, so I got this through. I'm gonna turn the whip light to where this cord is gonna be kind of hanging out on this side. All right, I don't think I've ever had to use one of these little magnetic reach tools, but the washer went pretty far down in there. And it worked. Washer goes on first, then the lock washer. Try to hold that up there and somehow get this nut screwed on to hold it all in place. Now the fun part is gonna try to be to get in here. I got enough room to tighten it. Cool. All right. These things aren't going anywhere.
There you go. Okay, so here's probably the worst part, is the fact that I've got to get this wiring from the whip lights inside the camper. And the way I'm going to do that is to use these, what they call these entry glands, and that's the same one that I'm using for all of my LED lights around the trailer. And these are essentially what you use to run your solar cables into your RV or your camper. So I'm going to use this to run the wiring from the whip lights. So I'm going to install this somewhere about right here. And so I got to drill a hole in the side of my camper. And this is going to go over that hole and then provide a seal. And of course I'll caulk all around it just to make sure it's all weatherproof. I got to drill a big hole in the side of the camper. That's going to be right about there. There we go. All right, so I got these cut. And now these are going to go through the little glands, what they call them, and down. And we're going to attach it just like that.
Are you making a light?
There we go. And then once this is all said and done, I'll go in and put a couple of screws here in the corner, and we'll be good to go. Got all the wiring done on the whip lights, which is always fun. Seems like wiring always takes the longest, and I hate doing it. It didn't turn out too bad. So you can see I've just got this one wire going down, and it all kind of ties in together right here behind this pillar, and it goes up and into this gland. Fairly straightforward. Let me show you the inside now. I haven't really done the inside yet. It just comes out through that hole, whoops, and I just have it very, very temporarily attached and going into my little DC port on my battery just to test it out, and it works. But I'll show you guys at night because it looks a lot cooler. That's really all there is to the wiring. Of course, when I'm done and I have it all routed, I'm going to show you the type of switch that I'm going to use just to make it easy, because I have this that I already have wired to the fuse panel that I used for my 12-volt fridge. So I'm just going to utilize this and use a 12-volt plug with a little button on the end of it, kind of like an on-off switch. So that way I can just open up the door, turn it on, and we'll be good to go. But this was just temporary, just to see if it worked, and it did. But I will definitely show you folks what it looks like at night, because it's pretty cool. All right, well, we are in the home stretch. It is pouring down rain outside, so I had to close the garage door, so the lighting's terrible. We are going to go ahead and set up this GUTA tire pressure monitoring system, and this thing comes with 6 sensors. Obviously, I don't need all 6. I just need 2 of them. This does come with a repeater to help the transmission between the monitor and the actual tire pressure sensors. If you have a really long trailer, I don't think it's really going to matter on mine, but it does come with a repeater and instructions, your user guide, and a quick guide to set these things up. And the other cool thing about these little sensors is a lot of these tire pressure monitor systems, you can't replace the battery, or when the battery dies, you're kind of done. These you can actually change the battery, and it's just a regular CR2032 battery, I believe. So that's a benefit to this kit, and it's why I picked it, because it's not useless once the batteries in this run dry. You can replace the batteries. You get 6 of these sensors, and you get your monitor that is going to attach via a suction cup that's going to, slide right back here. So now this will, attach to your windshield in the cab of your truck, and you'll be able to see the actual monitor. So this is the repeater that all you have to do is, it says to install this thing in the back of your trailer, and you just have to connect this DC cord up to some kind of battery source. So if you might have to run this all the way to your battery up front, you'll have to probably extend the wire. But this is going to help if you have a really long trailer to maintain transmission between the actual tire pressure sensor and the monitor. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and sync 2 of these sensors up to the monitor, because right now they're not linked together. So that's what we got to do first. So I'm just going to pick a random 2 sensors here. Okay, so we're going to turn this unit on. You can see there's really not a whole lot of information in there. So we're going to press and hold the code button for 3 seconds. And you get a lot of beeps, and you get this FFF, FFF. Okay, so we're gonna do the bottom left tire. So you can see that bottom left tire right there is flashing, and I just picked that by hitting the plus and the minus buttons. So once that's flashing, I'm gonna hit code, and a red LED light will come on, apparently. Let's see. Yep, so hold that sensor right there where it says code.
Sweet. So now this sensor is that tire. So I want it to be that outside right tire. We're gonna hit code, grab the other sensor, it got it. So in here, we're gonna press and hold the set button instead of the code button to set the PSI for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the PSI button is flashing, and we're gonna go ahead and set that to 75. So I've got these tires set to 75 PSI. Okay, so to install these, we're just going to undo the regular cap, nut that it comes with, and then we're going to screw on the sensor. And then use this wrench that it comes with, and we're going to turn that nut counterclockwise to kind of squeeze up on the sensor itself. There we go. Same for the other side.
All right, folks, well, I have finished up all of the upgrades that I'm going to do to this camper now. It went all pretty well. You saw the tire pressure monitoring system. Those are on. So here's the monitor. So you can see that bottom left tire is flashing. So that's my left tire. And then the top tire is flashing. That's my right tire. So, and it changes the PSI level. So you can see they're not exactly the same right now. So it's just a constant display of each tire's PSI, and it just kind of rotates through each tire as you travel down the road. You know, I got the whip lights put in. And actually what I did up top was I just kind of connected them to the trailer so they don't, I mean, I know they're whip lights, but at least this way they don't whip and hit the side of it. But they look really cool at night, and the kids absolutely dig them. So that was a fun little upgrade. And then this might not look that great, but to me, it's 10 times better than what it was. So here's the inside of the Galley now. So I've got the battery back here. I will eventually build a little shelf that goes on top to kind of protect it, but I'm not gonna put much back here. But you can see I just have the cables running directly up to the fuse panel. And I actually have on order a bigger Anderson plug that I'm going to use to kind of splice in the middle of those. That way I can have a quick disconnect of the battery to the fuse panel, because right now I literally have to unscrew either the battery or the fuse panels. When I don't want to use this battery, all I have to do is come up and actually plug in this LED driver, because that's going to end up powering the fuse panel. But if I want to use the battery power, I keep this unplugged. So that's kind of my setup. It's kind of a little bit weird, but that's how I'm doing it right now. I got some of the wiring a little bit more organized. Still not perfect, but it's good enough for right now. I did install another shelf, so I took out that sliding drawer and I just put another shelf in, and that gave enough room to put all the main goodies up here. And then I got my grill bungeed up here. So that shouldn't be going anywhere. And then over here on the side is just a bunch of chairs and tables and a blanket and a tarp. Overall, it's just a lot more organized than what it was prior to this weekend. So folks, when it gets a little bit dark, I'm gonna turn on these oh, I forgot to show you. So here's how I turn the whip lights on. So I just mounted one of these little 12-volt switches, one of these 12-volt adapters, and I've got it tied up pretty tight. But I push that into the socket, and it's got a push button. So to turn on the whip lights, I just hit this button, or obviously to turn them off. But that's how I have these whip lights installed. So I will have to open up the Galley to actually turn these on. It works just fine, and it's easy enough to get to. So that's how I have the whip lights connected. And of course, this 12-volt female socket runs back behind here, and then it goes up into my fuse panel. So folks, as soon as it gets just a little bit darker, I will show you what the whip lights look like at night and go through a couple of the settings, because again, they're just kind of cool and they're kind of fun when you're at a campground. Turn them on and you have a little mini party in the back of your trailer. I'll show you that at night here in just a second.